Promotional consideration paid for by the following. The Ohio Neck and Back Pain Relief Center, Scott M. Gray, D.C., across from the Marion Center between TSC and Kroger. For further information, dial 740-386-6580. Also located on the net at goodbackbadback.com.
You know what the greatest thing is about the exchange with Scott Spears? Well, not only do they have Scott Spears, but they got all kinds of fabulous guests, too. So tune in. The exchange. Scott Spears. Right here. Hello there, Soup here. Say, if you want to be really entertained, just tune in to The Exchange, starring my good friend Scott Spears, here on this station.
Hey, Scott Spears along with you on a Tuesday edition of The Exchange, having a good time here talking with 40th Treasurer of the United States, Mary Ellen Withrow, Martha Douse-Manesi, of course, here this week, Brenda Donegan, Charlie Evers, having a good time. But there's an event coming up next week here in Marion I want to make sure to let everybody know about. 14th Annual Night of a Thousand Stars Variety Charity Show will be taking place Thursday, December the 8th, 6:30 p.m. start time at the Unkefer Street Union Hall, located at 675 Unkefer Avenue here in Marion. All proceeds from this event will go to create a scholarship for a Marion County High School senior attending college in the fall of 2012, majoring in broadcasting and/or journalism. That could be any school: Elgin, Marion City, Ridgedale, River Valley, all included, Pleasant. Performing that night, the Martha Douse Dancers, the Dance Factory Dancers, the Rainbow Singers, Possum. If you haven't heard Possum, he wrote this great song about Marion. It's a folk song. I love it. He's going to be there performing it that night. Fran Vall, former Marion Catholic High School principal, will be getting the Friend of the Community Award. And there will be a celebrity auction. Now, hold on to your hats. This is kind of neat. A celebrity auction that will include many items, but one of the items I already have that I can show you here today exclusively on The Exchange is a painting painted by Phyllis Diller with a letter of authenticity. Now, hold on. And I'm going to, well, Charlie, do fascinating facts while I get this.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'd be glad to. Yeah, I like paintings, too. And I often wonder, when you see Antiques Roadshow, and they'll have a painting on display, and the amount of money they bring is absolutely fantastic. What is it about a painting? Of course, I know some of the most famous painters do draw a lot of money, but what is it about a painting that it makes it worth so much? What is it? I can't figure it out myself.
The uniqueness.
Yes.
The uniqueness.
Really?
Yeah, well.
Sometimes the author, the painter.
I mean, paintings are worth so much more than other objects that might be worth more.
It could be. I guess beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
That's what I heard once.
That's what you heard,
Yeah.
Charlie. There's a picture of Phyllis Diller. She sent an autographed picture along with it. This is not the painting, but there's the autographed photo. Now, this is the painting with a letter of authenticity stamped right on the back, painted by Phyllis Diller. And right there at the bottom, she signed it. This will be up for auction on December the 8th, 6:30 p.m. And right here at the bottom, she autographed it along the back, and the certificate of authenticity right there at the bottom. And this will go in somebody's home here in Marion to help fund that scholarship on December the 8th. You don't want to miss that. How often in Marion can you buy a portrait painted by Phyllis Diller?
Is there a name to that portrait?
Not that I can see. Oh, no, Simone, there is. Simone.
Oh, okay, Simone.
This is Simone.
Yeah,
So-
I knew her.
Did you?
Yeah, yes.
Dated her in high
Went
school.
to school with her, yeah.
I bet you did, Charlie. So Simone will go up for auction on December the 8th, and if you want tickets, call Sean, 740-262-3203, $5 admission to this program, 262-3203. Today, we're going to talk about all kinds of interesting stuff on the exchange. Yesterday, I left Mary Ellen with a question. If she wants to take a pass on this, do you want to take a pass on this, Mary Ellen? It's a rough question.
Well, I think I do want to take a pass because I was thinking about the answer, and I could give you an answer, but I don't think it would do any good to talk about it. So
That's okay.
yeah.
Mary
That's
Ellen, I was wondering, do you ever listen to any of the conservative commentators or?
Yes.
And they're so nasty.
Mhm.
I mean, Marv Levin is one of the nastiest, and the things he says about the president, I think that does something to this country. Not only does it express his ill feelings toward the president, but it puts the country down too. How does the president manage to keep his temper, you might say, during all this?
Oh, I imagine he, rises above it. You'd have to. I mean,
Oh, yes.
I remember I didn't want to read bad articles about me. And I told my secretary, I said, I don't want to read those. And then she'd bring them in and she'd say, I think you ought to see this. And I said, no, I don't think so. But, they have to just rise above it,
Mary Ellen, that Charlie begs an interesting question there. The question, I don't know if I even said it, that I asked you yesterday was, what was the worst thing anybody ever said about you in an election? And we'll just scratch that. But when they said it, how does that make you feel, even when you know it's not true?
Oh, it makes you feel, really bad because a certain amount of people will believe it. And if they keep printing it in the paper or saying it on the radio or wherever, each time they say it, there's going to be more people believe it. And that's what I was always so concerned about, was the fact that so many things were said that were untrue. And the things that I dealt with, you had to take about 3 paragraphs to explain it. And usually people wouldn't bother to read the explanation, I don't think. So that was always a problem for me in taking care of money. You had to try to explain what had happened, and it took too much time to do it.
Wanted to touch base here with Charlie real quick, and then we'll get into the current events this week. Ask Brenda. She was with the Star when Mary Ellen was going up the ladder. You were at WMRN
Yes.
when Mary Ellen was going up the ladder. What was the atmosphere like there?
Well, it's kind of electrifying, really. This is the first time we had someone since Warren G. Harding in a national office, and it was just great. I mean, it made you feel good. It made the whole community feel good.
Well, I've told this story before, and I'm going to tell it today because I said I would, and Mary Ellen's here, so I like telling this story because it's not negative in any way. But when I first came to WMRN, which was in 2006, 2007, right there on the cusp, one of the people, of course, you want to interview when you first get there is Mary Ellen Withrow. You want to interview the Marion people who've done so great because their stories are good. And for the longest time, I could not, now this will tell you how crazy I am, I couldn't track her down. You'd been out of office, and I didn't really know how to get in touch with you. And then one day it dawned on me, I knew that your son-in-law had taught here in town, and I knew his name. So I called him up, and I said, it was over the holiday. It was between Christmas and New Year. And I called up, and I said, hey, I'm with WMRN, and I would like to interview Mary Ellen Withrow. How would I get in touch with her? And they said, lo and behold, she's in town for the holiday. She's staying here in Marion. And I said, oh, and they said, oh, here's her number. Just give her a call. And I'll never forget this because radio's an early morning thing, and it still is here in Marion. But it was, my show at that point was on like 9 or 10 in the morning, maybe 10. And, I'd been wanting Mary Ellen Withrow on for a long time at that point, probably 9, 10 months I'd been tracking her. And I called up and I thought, well, this is just going to be a phone interview, and it's probably going to be very short. And I called up, Mary Ellen answers the phone, I tell her who I am, and I say, hey, I understand it's the holidays, you're in town celebrating with your family, but I would love to do an interview with you while you're here. And she said, what time do you want me at the station? I'm thinking phone interview. She said, what time do you want me there? And she showed up New Year's Eve morning. She showed up, she did 45 minutes with me on the radio, and that is absolutely gracious. And when she came back for her 80th birthday, she came after the party. You've always been so kind to me, and today is another example of it, and I just wanted to mention that while we were on the air. It's always a wonderful memory for me that you would do that. And on that note, now we'll move into some interesting current events here that are going on. Charlie mentioned the Republican commentators. Well, there's Republican candidates too now, Charlie, and boy, are they all over the place.
They are.
And recent poll, but they've been up and down. Mitt Romney cannot seem to get ahead in these polls. He's always first, second. He can't seem to hold on. And latest poll, flavor of the day, seems to be Newt Gingrich has plopped up now, and he seems to be doing very well in the polls. And he's got a rather sketchy past that hurt him in the beginning, but now people are more forgiving as we head into the
You just
first
wonder,
of the year.
or will a lot of things be brought up? Should he become the candidate for president? Of course, he's a candidate now, but I mean, if he was running, and he was the only one, would all this come up again?
Well, the interesting thing, Charlie, is you've said on this show, so it's no secret, that you would tend to vote for Obama. Would you ever, in any case, vote for Gingrich?
I've never cared for Gingrich since day one. I don't know what it is. I look at him and I see somebody else that I've known that I didn't particularly care for. Isn't that? No, I'm telling you.
He reminds me of one of those little rascals. He kind of looks like one of the little rascals. I'm not sure which one. You pick the one. Brenda, does Newt Gingrich put you off because of his past?
Actually, I haven't followed him too much because he's never been one of my favorite people. However, I have listened quite a bit recently with the guy from Florida, and I can't remember his name. It was with the National Western Association.
Kane.
Oh, Kane, yes.
Yeah. And all of the, just again, all the things that are coming out. What do you believe? And a good journalist will get both sides of the story. Unfortunately, our national media doesn't do that.
Certain parts of it. Do you think it's all media? I think there are certain factions that might try to get it all, but then there are others that really don't. I don't know. Mary Ellen, I got to ask you, we'll go to Gingrich because he was there when you were there.
That's right.
But let's start, I just got to ask you this. What do you make of this Herman Cain?
Oh, I don't think he's going to last very long in the realm of things. But Gingrich shut down the government when I was there, and I had to go to work every day because my bureaus were not part of the government. They were the Federal Reserve was their customer, so we had to keep making money, and it was such a strange feeling to have not very many people around. There was just a few people at Treasury. And all of the history there, I just think while you're causing trouble for the president and you're doing some of the same things, you should be a little bit careful about what you're doing.
People who live in black houses should throw stones, right?
Well, it's interesting to me. When I heard in the last week or so that he was up in the polls, I thought, boy, that's kind of strange because I don't know that he's done anything that would negate him going up in the polls. Do you, Charlie?
No, in fact, I heard very recently, in fact, earlier today, that he was coming up in the polls. He and, of course, Mitt Romney was in second place in the polls.
Why can't Mitt Romney get out of second place?
I don't know.
He's consistent.
He does seem like more of a really gracious or honest person. I don't know. But one thing that I've noticed recently, now Obama made a statement on his trip recently where he said Americans are a little bit lazy in getting, progressing toward getting, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was not it was not a downer for Americans being lazy. It was the fact that they didn't go out and seek maybe more industries and different things. But the talk show people just took out that one piece. Americans are lazy.
Now, see, that's the media that is not telling exactly the way things go. Mary Ellen, do you think Obama is a shoo-in? Do you think it looks good for him?
It's not a shoo-in. I think he's done a lot of things that are good, and I think he's got a good thing to run on as far as his campaign. And the jobs thing is very difficult, and I really think the economy is improving a little bit. But this debt committee, that is the worst thing. The thing that they can't get together and solve this, I think, is terrible. And I think that's a real bad thing to deal with there.
Let's go back about 6 months, and then we'll fast forward to the thing you just brought up, the super committee. But let's start. What was your feeling this past summer when we couldn't get the debt ceiling raised and we lost our credit rating? What did you make of that whole situation?
Well, you know how hard it is to get your credit rating back. And it made my summer miserable. It really did, because every day I was listening to everything they were doing and trying to do, and they couldn't get anywhere. And all because of, what's his name, Norbert, the guy that had the contract that they signed.
Oh, Grover
Norquist,
yeah.
I mean, Grover Norquist was running the country almost, because he wouldn't let anybody vote for a tax increase. I just think that everything was held up because of that, and it still seems to be.
How bad does that affect us? What does that mean to the average Joe in Marion, Ohio, that we've lost a credit rating?
Well, it means that you're going to pay a lot more for your debt, and we've got a lot of debt to pay for. And when your credit rating goes down, you have to pay a higher percentage rate. And so it's costing you more money. It's costing the country more money to exist. And we've always had a good credit rating. That's what's so bad about this. It just made me feel really bad that we lost our credit rating. Yeah.
Was the super committee, we just found out recently that they couldn't come to any terms, but in theory, was that a good idea? Could that have ever worked?
Well, it could have worked if they could have worked together. They are not working together.
Why are we so against each other? That R and the D in front of your name seem to mean everything nowadays.
That's right. It's just like they want to see the president lose, and that's the reason they don't want him to have a success in anything. That's the reason they're doing this.
I was talking with somebody recently about do the Republicans really want the presidency, or do they want Obama not to be there? I mean, it seems like, even more than in the Clinton days, which it was pretty bad then, they really don't like the man. I don't think they've given him a moment's peace since he got in office.
No, they didn't give Clinton a moment's peace either. But they weren't able to get away with the things they're getting away with now. Things have become more bitter, and they just are not willing to compromise. Government, you should compromise, and for the good of the country, not for your next election. You know, it's not why they're there.
Charlie, did you have a...
Yeah, I heard some of the commentators say that Obama should have been in the meeting to provide leadership, and he wasn't there. He was traveling like he usually does to Hawaii and all around, but he was on a business trip. And even if he had been in that meeting trying to provide leadership, he'd have been talked down and made fun of, more or less. Whatever he does, he can't do. It seems like he couldn't please the conservatives no matter what.
A punching bag is what he's become,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Brenda, you talked about it being a great member of the media for so long, that the media maybe is not as down the center as they should be. Maybe, as you alluded to, there is no media that's unbiased in some way anymore. How do we fix it? How do we get around this?
Well, every journalist should sign the code of ethics for one thing, and if they have, they should abide by it. And basically, that's to be fair and honest with everything that you report. And if you report something bad about someone, you should give them the opportunity for rebuttal. And you should also make sure that the person who made the comment is able to substantiate what they said. So I don't know. I'm glad I'm not out and in that anymore. I enjoyed it the 27 years that I was there, but I don't know. It's just everything is so crazy anymore, and people are so hateful in everything that they do, that their words are not kind toward one another. And as Mary Ellen alluded to, this is the United States of America. We've had men and women that have fought for us for years to be the land of the free, and if we don't take a stand and become united, where are we going to be 10 years from now, or even 6 years from now? Who knows?
It's a rough way to go. Martha, I know you keep track of what's going on in the news, watch it daily. Do you ever get sick of just the same thing over and over and over?
I sure do.
What do you make of the way that people talk about each other now? The terms they use,
It's terrible. It's awful the way people do.
You ran for office at one point, Martha, here in Marion. Would you have ever talked about your opponent in that way?
No,
Yeah. Not worth winning, is it,
no.
to do that, stoop to that level? Speaking of Newt Gingrich, there was a story that came off the wire that I did want to get into because I thought it was kind of interesting. Republican presidential candidate Newt Gingrich called child labor laws stupid Friday in an appearance at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. Yeah, this is a quote. "It is tragic what we do in the poorest neighborhoods in trapping children in, first of all, child laws, which are truly stupid," said the former House Speaker, according to CNN. "Most of these schools ought to get rid of the unionized janitors, have one master janitor, and pay local students to take care of the school. The kids would actually do work. They would have cash. They would have pride in the schools. They'd begin to the process of rising. You're going to see from me extraordinarily radical proposals to fundamentally change the culture of poverty in America," he added. "Generally, the Fair Labor Standards Act allows minors over 14 to work in most jobs, with several exceptions for minors under that age. Hours are limited for minors under the age of 16. Some states have higher age standards." He also said Saturday, now this is interesting, this is a quote too, "Occupy Wall Street protesters should take a bath and get a job." Newt Gingrich, Brenda, what do you think of those comments about minors and the Wall Street protesters? In his own words.
Not very diplomatic, was he?
But he leads the polls
He
now.
leads the
Isn't that
polls.
strange?
It really is, and I'm just wondering where the people are who really support him and some of the things that he does say, because they're just not.
If you had one master janitor and had children doing the rest of the work, would they be licensed boiler operators? Could they engineer
have to be,
air
but
conditioning systems,
They'd almost have to be.
electric panels, and
Maybe Newt hasn't been around too many janitors. He doesn't know the lay of it.
no.
Newt needs to come to Ohio and talking about child labor laws. He needs to come to Ohio and learn about the prostitution rings and the girls that are sold into slavery. And, you know, Toledo and Columbus and Dayton are 3 areas in Ohio that are really just bombarded with
There might be several in Washington, too.
trafficking. Yeah.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is here, when he calls child labor laws stupid, now, is that progressive? Does that need to be reformed along with everything else Mary Ellen, what do you think of those comments?
Oh, I think they're terrible. That's the reason I don't think Newt's going to last too long, because he makes remarks that just are ridiculous. And he's got an ego that's out the roof. And he is a thinker. I mean, he thinks about things and he comes up with things, but usually he's not very diplomatic. And that's not going to do him any good as he goes along with his statements.
He just kind of tagged there at the end the Occupy Wall Street protesters. I guess you can have an opinion on that, and maybe he feels they should get a job, which I don't think is going to be too easy in the economy now. But take a bath, what kind of comment is that?
Yeah.
It's bad.
I mean, that's just nonsense. Nonsense. Mary Ellen, I did want to touch on the economics of the country right now. We talked about how the super committee did not work, how the debt ceiling, we had all kinds of problems there. You certainly knowing about money and how to handle it. What can we do? Nobody seems to have the answer to this.
No. Well, there was an ultimatum made by the president. He has to have an answer by the end of the year, I guess it is, isn't it? And so I think that you're going to have some things happen between now and then that I certainly hope so. I'm really hoping.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to come back tomorrow on Wednesday. Much more conversation on the exchange. It's a fun week here. You don't want to tune out. Be back tomorrow.